We will get in a second to how cool I think it is that Draymond Green has turned the playoffs into his personal podcast forum where he is not going to tell others about his suspension. He's going to monetize it himself, run to the hotel room, and do an emergency pod to talk about his suspension as he creates whatever it is, his brand in retirement.
So proud of him. I mean, the Stugotz is strong in Draymond Green.
He is owning. He cares about that pod as much as he cares about defense, and it's just a great career twist at the end to have an interesting, live, active athlete at the center of one of the best teams, willing to say things and just controlling his own content.
That's a desperate move for a podcast.
Yes.
That's a guy that's like, the numbers haven't been great.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to hear what I'm saying.
The
I'm going to
numbers
say it right there.
No, the numbers are great.
Nah, I'd like to see his megaphone numbers.
Yeah,
I'm not
let's go.
certain
Right.
that these are very high.
Well, he's trying to build it up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what he's trying to do.
Do you think he carries his Shure MV7 everywhere he goes?
Yes.
Yes.
No, I think it's in the locker room. If I'm
I'm
him,
surprised he had to go back to the hotel, to be honest.
right? I'm
Yes.
surprised that it's not in the locker room with him. He's not texting his producer, "Hey, I got an hour and 10 minutes. Let's knock this out now," because I would have.
This is how the modern-day Barkley makes himself the modern-day Barkley, by being at the center of everything, not being a real scorer, putting a name and championship pedigree on defense. I do love that after the game, Steph is talking about that championship DNA they've got, and Clay is talking about that championship DNA they got when Clay missed 2 free throws as an 90% shooter from the free throw line.
Played great defense at the end, though.
I mean, okay.
Well,
but,
he forced Ja all the way to the left there.
I need to get T. Morant on these broadcasts. I need to get T. Morant, his father, on the broadcast because he's more honest about his son than anyone is. After the first round series, he just said, "My son played like trash."
What a game, though, man. I was out of breath after that game. I'm serious.
Well, and it was a great idea by Memphis to basically just get John Morant with a head of steam.
Yes.
Because, like, that's the idea at the end of the game is he's so much quicker than everyone. He blew by, I forget
Gary Payton Jr.
Oh, it was Gary Payton Jr. on that play where it was, Gary Payton has some space, and he still is just flown past.
It was a great play call, and
all Clay has to do is just show him a bit to the outside, like Stugotz says. It's great defense.
I love Ja owning it after the game where they asked him about the play call, the shot, and he's like, "I missed a layup, man. Like, that's it. It was on me.
But it
I
wasn't a
missed
layup. But it wasn't a layup.
To
It was
him,
a
that's a
layup
layup.
from too far out.
I know.
You've got to try and project it towards the backboard at the right angle.
Hence the good defense by Klay Thompson, because he pushed him out there, and Steph acknowledged it after the game. So.
Okay, you can acknowledge it, but championship DNA isn't missing those 2 free throws at the end to give John Morant the ability to do that after one of your players has been ejected from the game.
Right.
Even though he shouldn't have been ejected from the game. Regardless, I think it's interesting that Draymond Green is just basically bogarting all of his own content to create his own platform as he works on TNT and works us to become the next Barkley, which he will be.
But the villainy stuff, he is very clearly playing it up there. I thought that was a bit ridiculous, like leaping off the floor because Steve Kerr overheard that it's a 2.
The whole thing can be contrived, and Draymond Green has set himself up. It's not just the platform, Stugotz, of him being able to control his own content and monetize it and wandering around with a microphone to give you the insides of the Golden State Warriors. It's also going to be something that, given what his reputation is already with referees, he said it to Kendrick Perkins. "My words are worth more than yours." You tell me, these coaches are always working these referees to get an advantage. Draymond's got his own platform that he's not even giving to others. Like, he's going to monetize it himself so that he exerts whatever pressure he can over these referees while playing a rabid defense that is super physical. And he's going to be lobbying for calls as the only guy who's been ejected from a finals game in Game 5 to alter a series, and now ejected with histrionics at the beginning of this series, which is going to be a fun one.
Whitty, the real genius of Draymond and what he's doing right here is his words are worth the most right now while he's still in it. Like, in the middle of all of it, on the best team in the NBA, perhaps. Like, that is a genius move by. He's not waiting for the career to end. He's taking you on a journey throughout the rest of his career.
No, but what he's doing is setting himself up very quickly for retirement. A few of these guys have realized it as the branding and the streaming changes all of this, and JJ Redick can be a brand if he just gives a forum to athletes and is able to use his contacts to bring to his pod and his post-retirement thing. Draymond Green's going to be able to do whatever he wants post-retirement, but the standards of broadcasting have been lowered as entry point when I see that Urban Meyer is deep in negotiations with Fox to go right back to a high-paying job, no matter the level of incompetence that gets you exposed, because he's a name that is good television. I'm not even sure how good he is as a broadcaster. Does he stand out to you as a broadcaster who says super insightful things when you're watching, or is he just Urban Meyer, polarizing Urban Meyer, and he can traffic in that for the rest of time?
I was oddly surprised at how good Urban was a couple of years ago during that pregame show. Like, he told stories. He wasn't scared to tell the stories. He made fun of himself a little bit. Like, I thought he was pretty good. Would I still give him a job? I'm not certain. But at the time, I thought he was pretty good.
I'm not certain? Have an opinion take guy. Like, you're not sure. Would you give him a job, or would you not give him a job?
As a consumer, I'm fine with him having a job because he was entertaining. If I was the one hiring at Fox just based on, everything in his past, I'm not certain I'd give him a job. In fact, I'd probably not give him a job. He wasn't that good enough.
Jessica, why are you laughing at him?
It's just funny because you're talking discounting the second half of your sentence, which is that you don't know if you would give him a job because you're not sure, you want to hedge. The first part being like, he was actually really, this is how these people keep getting the same jobs over and over again, because the whole thing with Urban Meyer is that he completely lacks credibility, right? Like, he's just been caught lying so many times. So he's telling you all these stories on TV and you're taking it with a grain of salt, because why?
I'm taking them as at least he's willing to tell the stories. Whether they're true or not doesn't really matter to me. I mean,
sure.
I don't think it's not just this. This is one of the things that I'm watching here, and I'm like, ew, just ew, all of you, ew. It's not just the credibility of, oh, wow, you were an incompetent as a professional coach, laughingstock as your punctuation. You hired a racist strength coach because you thought with your ego that you could, and the stories coming out of Jacksonville are you are a historic laughingstock failure. Let's just put him on television, even though he lies. I mean, that's gross. It's just gross.
And also, before that happened, and before, he went to the Jags, he did this thing where he laid out, here are the keys to a successful program. And gave good keys, and then broke all of them in Jacksonville.
You kicked your
in the
kicker.
First 6 months.
You kicked your kicker, Stugotz. You didn't know who Aaron Donald was.
He's been this. He's been a liar. He's been a bad person his entire career. Now all of a sudden we care? Like, I didn't hear anyone objecting when he got the Florida job. I didn't hear anyone objecting when he went to Ohio State.
That was 20 years ago. That was before he did all this stuff when he got the Florida job.
Oh, no, he did some terrible stuff at Florida, and no one objected to him going to Ohio State. And then after he did the terrible things at Ohio State and the terrible things at the University of Florida, then he took a job at Fox, and no one objected then, and now we're objecting.
People definitely objected to it.
It's louder now than it's ever been.
Well, he was more incompetent and lacks more credibility than he ever has.
This is as big of a public disgrace as he's had. Was completely undressed by the National Football League in 8 months.
Almost undressed on a dance floor at your own bar where you weren't with your team because you were still being ego college coach. Stugotz, you do normalize it and give voice to it by just being like, well, he's awful, so what? Makes good television. My thing is, does he? Because I'm like, you could get 50 guys to do that.
Well, that's what I was weighing. When I said he was good, he's not good enough where if I'm the person in charge of hiring, I would do it again.
I don't think he's memorable as a broadcaster that he can overcome something that seems to be pretty important for a broadcaster, which is huge, giant lack of credibility. Your last job, you were clearly not suited in any way for a leadership position that required credibility. You managed in 13 games, a record amount of time, to be a total fraud to your players on the worst team in the league and couldn't survive even the first year. Here's a cushy broadcasting job, one of the best in sports.
But ESPN also owns college football coverage. Like College Game Day, you go to College Game Day. So if you get a name, that's just a name.
But Fox has the marquee Big Ten kickoff thing that they're trying to rival College Game Day with. So I assume this would be. At. Yeah, they've done really well branding it as their noon.
You're still going
show.
To game day though.
Right.
I think I flip back and
No,
forth.
it's reasonable competition. You might think of it as they made a dent in a place where it's hard to make a dent. They have a following, and he is part of the building of that following. It's not just College Game Day anymore, Stugotz. They've got a legitimate college football outfit over there. As the politics split the country, and some people say ESPN and Disney is too liberal, for the outfit that will take Urban Meyer happily and put him on broadcast television in order to compete.
This was Stugotz. The Fox broadcast is the show where last year, I think at the national championship or one of the playoffs or something, they had a table set up on the field where there were like 8 guys sitting at the table,
on top of each other.
no women, but their sponsor was Wendy's. They had like one female representation in their corporate sponsorship on the table. All these dudes.
It was the Big Ten title game,
Yeah.
And that show is the top show at putting people on top of each other. Like, there is a tiny desk, and there's 8 pundits.
Well, they don't get rid of Matt Lyon or anybody else. They just keep stacking people on top of each other and put Urban Meyer in there now, too.
I'm wondering what Whitty, because Whitty was saying it back here that he thought he was a good broadcaster. Like, what did you guys see from Urban that was interesting? Like, to me, he was just a broadcaster. Like, he didn't say anything I can remember.
His willingness to tell stories, whether they were true or untrue. He was relaxed. He made fun of himself. He allowed others to poke fun at him. He gave it right back as well. I just thought he was decent at it. It's very hard. It's a hard job to do. It's hard to be good at. And he's like a smooth talker. He's Urban Meyer. Like, he was.
Is that a hard job to be good at, Stugotz? I feel like there
You know a lot of people who are great at it.
I don't think Urban Meyer's one of them.
I didn't say he was great. I said he was good at it because it's hard to be great at that, you know?
Is it worth it though? Like, I mean, I guess Fox doesn't give a shit, right? Like, they don't care. They're gonna hire whoever they want to hire. But like, he's Urban Meyer at this point. Like, what value does he add? We have Bob Stoops already. Why do we need Urban Meyer and Bob Stoops?
Dave Wanstead's better than them both.
The only value is the point that
They're keeping them all?
The point that Billy brought up of like they're trying to compete with ESPN, and
It's just
he
shock
is,
value.
Right, like that.
He's a name. He's the big name that's out there. We got him on our
Some people
broadcast.
might tune in that first week just to see, oh, Urban's back. Let's see what he says. So like, I get that appeal, but the pros and cons. Like, he's done enough to be like, all right, enough with him.
We've done this a lot, right? And we've played around. Is A-Rod that good at these things?
No.
So,
I
like,
think
why does he keep
he's good
getting
in
jobs?
the studio. I think he's good in the studio, like on Fox's coverage
why is he
of the
there?
World Series.
But why
Well,
is
he's
he
there
there?
because he's A-Rod.
Right. And so why is Urban there?
Oh,
But you can make an argument for A-Rod that he's good at the artifice of television.
I would make the argument about A-Rod that he's good at the artifice of television when they put him with Big Papi in a studio show that has chemistry. I don't believe he's good at the artifice of television
But
when
that's
it's
Big
on
Papi
ESPN.
that draws it out of him.
Oh, it's a total combination. It's Burkhardt as the host. It's Frank Thomas, who's, I think, a really good pundit as well. Like, that show works really well together. But like you said, Stugotz, you take him out of that context, and you know the broadcasting stuff is the games stuff is not quite gone as well.
Let me ask you a headline here I read about because I meant to get to this before I got sidetracked in Urban Meyer talk. We'll get to the draft in a second because there was some stuff to talk about there that was interesting. And also we have to get to Stugotz trying to get through the day without acknowledging Chris Paul going 14 for 14 in an NBA playoff game, the greatest shooting night in the history of the NBA playoff.
First round.
But before I get to that, I just want you guys to tell me what happened with this headline. I don't know this story. I just saw the headline. Elderly golfer shoots man in ankle, beats him with club for walking dog on course.
You don't walk a dog on a course, Dan. I mean, everyone knows that.
Well, is it the walking of the dog, or is it that he always walks the dog and leaves poop behind? Because escalating to elderly man shoots man in ankle, beats with club for walking of dog suggests to me that there was more than just the walking of dog here. That's an escalation that is not just because somebody at the eighth hole is walking Fido.
I need details on whether he's just a terrible shot and that's why you hit him in the ankle, or he hit him in the ankle because he's trying to send a message. Like, this is just the ankle this time.
What do you guys have happening before that, though? There is something that
This is an escalation. This is not an isolated incident. It can't be.
He's always doing it. Yes. Like in the middle of the day, on a Sunday, on a Saturday, the golf course is packed. He's walking his dog.
Stugotz, it's not just the walking, though, is it? Or is it the walking and not picking up poop? Because
it's all of it. It's the walking. It's the not picking up poop. It's the guy having to wait because he needs that guy to get out of the way because he doesn't want to hit him with a golf ball, and then he hits him with a golf ball.
Is walking walking a dog on a golf course, is that an unwritten rule? Is if somebody was doing that
It's not unwritten, it's stated. You do not walk your dog on the golf course.
I think it's one of those things where if there's a golf group ahead of you in the fairway, you wait till they leave. If there's just some idiot walking their dog, you just shoot.
Fire away.
Yeah. And you yell 4 if it's going at them. But look, you're walking your dog in the middle of the fairway at 17, okay?
Right.
I mean, you must live near here. You know it's a golf course.
Mm-hmm.
I'll yell 4, but this is on you, buddy.
I would say it's not unwritten, Dan. It's stated. Like at my golf course, you can't jog on the golf course. You can't even go jogging on the golf course, let alone walk your dog.
This is on you, buddy, for guy getting shot in the ankle and beaten with a club?
No, I'm talking about a guy casually walking in the fairway getting hit with a golf ball. I'm not like
You said shoot, and you meant golf club. This guy took it to a shot in the ankle.
That's probably excessive.
It's a lot.
Probably, Stugotz, you're on fire
really
with the takes this morning,
you call the starter, and you tell the starter, hey, there's a guy walking his dog out here again. The starter takes care of business. You don't have to hit him with a golf ball.
Did you forget how to take
He
this
didn't hit him
weekend?
with a golf ball. He shot him with a gun. He was under arrest for first-degree attempted murder.
And I'm saying that's probably a bit excessive.
Oh, a bit excessive.
Probably
a bit.
we're not certain yet.
Urban Meyer, he's not sure
Let's
whether he
think
would
about it
hire
a
him.
little,
He's-
yeah.
he came
walking
in
a
weak.
dog middle of a round.
Needs to sharpen his takes. He's not in full. He's not ready
I
yet
don't
to
know.
take for the week.
I'm not giving the take that you want, but it's my take, you know? I just said it's debatable. I mean, a Sunday afternoon.
Debatable, Stugotz?
That's true. What day of the week is it? That's important.
Right, Sunday afternoon, Saturday afternoon,
Also-
up to Thursday, you politely tell them to walk away.
Not to say, I mean, the dog walker is 64 years old. I mean, you should know better by then, right?
Well, certainly you've been warned by the gun-toting, wielding, club-wielding old man who shoots people in the ankle. I want more details on this story. Find me somebody who can talk about this story. I do want to talk NBA playoffs. Zach Harper is here with us. Cinephobe is a raging success here at the Le Batard and Friends Network. This is a giant month for Cinephobe. Zach Harper and Amin El-Hassan, along with Anthony Mays, are doing an exceptional job with that. I want to talk a number of basketball things with Zach because I believe when him and Amin and Tom and Mo get together that the analysis is better than you will find just about anywhere. But before we get to that, Zach, and thank you for joining us, what is going on with Cinephobe this month that is special or different? Because you guys kind of soft launched last month, but this month you're ramping it up.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we planned the best month last month, even though it was Nick Cage 2.0, and he's one of the greatest actors of all time, an Academy Award winner, has probably gifted a few to other actors. So, but we started with a 2% movie, and that's not 2% by the critics or it was 2% by both the critics and the audience combined. That's not really the best way. And then a lot of movies nobody had heard of. And so we decided, okay, we'll do like a real launch here in May with Vehicle Month, which used to be dropped on Wednesdays. We're changing the drop to Thursdays. Today at 2 p.m. Eastern on Monday, you will get a remix of our Rocky IV episode, which kicked off the year. Stugotz eventually joined us and talked about all the Stallone months from January, but we're releasing Rocky IV today because we feel it's the best representation of what Cinephobe is, not necessarily doing a Rapture movie from a Nicolas Cage catalog that got 2% total.
Wait, you're putting out an old podcast episode today?
No, it's a remixed.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, like have a song and then have a song that puts Pitbull on it for the remix. Do you think that's an old song?
Is Pitbull on this podcast?
Listen to find out.
It's the only way.
Download, subscribe.
It's the only reason Billy will.
I like to hear his breakdown of Rocky IV.
Well, listen, we've got a month of
Got me there.
Nicolas Cage movies. Let's. I want to play stat of the day here. Get me the short version here for Zach Harper.
Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day.
Stat of the day is presented by ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
From StatMuse, Luka was guarded by Bojan Bogdanovic for 14 minutes in 2 games. He scored 32 points and shot 65%. Bojan doesn't feel very good today, right? I don't know who feels worse this weekend, but just missing that shot at the end, the wide open shot, short in a way that was like, oh, you're better at that shot. You realize that was a big shot you were taking.
Zach, before you answer that, just so I'm clear here, and I want to be very, very clear, we can use remixes and release them as new episodes because it sounds like a summer of remixes for Stupidity. I mean, this is exciting.
Stu, all you've got to do is just re-record like a 5-minute intro.
Done.
And then you're good. You're good.
Oh, Billy, let's get on this.
He even farmed out that. He even farmed out that. Billy, let's get on this. And when he says, let's get on this, you handle it,
We're
Billy.
going to have Brady on again. I mean, oh, my God.
Draft coverage in August. There you go.
Who feels worse this weekend? Players, individuals, and teams, Zach?
I actually think everybody but the Jazz feel worse because the Jazz didn't want to play with each other anymore. That team really is a toxic environment internally. And so I think it's interesting. Like you always hear, go for the win at home or go for the win on the road, go for the tie at home in a close game situation. The Jazz were at home. They just said, screw it. We're just take a 3-2. We don't even have Rudy Gobert in the game. Bojan hits the shot. He hits the shot. If not, we all get to go to vacation. And so I think that Jazz team actually feels really good because they lost.
Can you tell me, because people were making a lot of Gobert saying that he really admired Devin Booker playing defense, going all out all game. They took it as shade for Donovan Mitchell when it is just the truth, right? Mitchell doesn't go all out, and Booker is a great defensive player. So what is the worst of the shade to indicate that the Jazz thing is all over, that Donovan hates everybody?
I mean, there's a real Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker thing, right? And I don't think it's necessarily between them, but there's been so much conversation on the internet, and Donovan Mitchell, like any young player, is very plugged into that. Rudy knew that. Rudy knows what he's doing there, and he's trying to do some internal motivation, I think. And I think he's also just genuinely appreciating how Devin Booker has gone from a guy someone could say, yeah, he just scores a bunch of points on a bad team. How good is he? To, oh my God, he should probably be in the MVP conversation a couple years later because he plays defense and he scores and he facilitates and everything that he does. And so with the Jazz situation, Donovan Mitchell, there's just a lot of animosity between those two, and any comment he's probably going to take the wrong way.
Stugotz, go ahead. Chris Paul, 14 for 14 on Friday. Give Zach your blowtorched Chris Paul take.
I mean, it's a decent game in a spot that's
decent game.
That's really not that big. Listen, he did it in the first round in a game 6. It should have been game 4. They should have swept that team. Phoenix is better than that. So he did it in a game 6 that really, should not have existed in the first place, because that series should have been over in 4 or 5. And I would tell him to do it in the Western Conference Finals. Actually do it next round. And if he does it, then do it in the Western Conference Finals. Mm-hmm. And if he does that, then do it in the NBA Finals. But we all know that's not going to happen. In part because he never does, and in part because no one is beating the Golden State Warriors. Nobody.
They almost lost last night to Memphis.
Hold on. Let me address that. On the road without Draymond Green. On the road without Draymond Green. He played till the second quarter. They were without him for a half. I mean, so they went on the road. They won a game against a team who was excellent at home, and they won a game without Draymond Green. I mean, listen, if Jordan Poole is going to play this well, the West is a wrap. I'm sorry. It's done. It's over. Okay, they're in the NBA Finals.
But you already have Chris Paul losing games he hasn't played, as opposed to examining the decent one he had on Friday.
Right. Well, it's a good game, I said. Do it next round.
Well, Stu, if you want to look at it a little bit.
Someone go 14 for 14.
Yeah. Like
a perfect 100%. 100% from the floor.
But
you never see that. LeBron doesn't do that.
No.
Nobody does that.
I understand that, but that game never should have happened, right? I mean, that series should have been over in 4 or 5 games. It's Phoenix versus an 8 seed without Zion Williamson. So is Zion Williamson.
You were the one who was talking about New Orleans being a good team. Surprisingly good. I think they're 15 games over 500 when they were a game over for a 15-game period.
Listen, it's hard to argue with perfection. I said, decent job. Just do it again. I mean,
keep being perfect.
What do you want from me? Just be great. Be great. Well, he be a top 5. No. Be great. Be a top 5 point guard that everyone says you are, and win a title for crying out loud.
The last game he played, he could not win a title. All he could do was be perfect.
Okay.
He was pretty bad in those 2 losses.
Thank you.
Too. I mean, to Stu's point, he was pretty bad. And it is a play-in tournament team. It started 3-16 on the season. Never mind that they were 33-30 for 3/4 of the season. They started 3-16, so that's a play-in tournament team without their best scorer, who was in a hoodie on the bench. So other than that, though, 14 of 14, no one's ever done it before.
Right.
Feels like a big deal. Although he did have 3 turnovers in the game, so
not perfect.
I liked it as just one big middle finger, because after they had won by 15 points in Game 5, all anyone could talk about was Jose Alvarado got an 8-second violation out of Chris Paul, and then Chris Paul says, "Well, what if I just went perfect?"
I love that Chris Paul could not pronounce his name after the series. Like, I don't.
He can pronounce his name. He was doing a thing.
Yep.
Chris Paul was doing a thing where it's like, because I think Jose Alvarado said he will never forget my name, and then he did the thing where he forgot his name on purpose. Because Jose Alvarado doesn't mean anything to me, because the time that he got an 8-second violation and stole the ball off me doesn't mean anything to me. I will say, in Stugotz's defense, Chris Paul completely lost the plot in that game. When Jose Alvarado was getting him in an 8-second violation and Chris Paul had 4 points, he lost the plot. And if that happens again, Stugotz is going to be there to not at all remember the 14 for 14 performance that he had.
Mm-hmm.
I think Zach brought up a better question on Twitter when he asked of Steven Adams, how far do you think he could throw an average-sized human being?
Mm-hmm.
And did you get any good responses to that? Because I thought to myself that Steven Adams could probably I'm going to say Stugotz is an average-sized human being, and I believe he could throw him from here to the Clevelander pool.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, easily.
What?
Because I used to cover Nikola Pekovic in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And he's regarded as like the strongest guy who's played in probably the last 30 years. Andre Drummond's talked about it. DeMarcus Cousins has talked about it. And those are big, strong guys. And Peck, when he was rehabbing his Achilles injury, he had this like 30-pound medicine ball that he was chest passing like 18 rows up into the stands just for like a light workout. And so Peck is not quite as, I would think as arm strong as Steven Adams. I think Steven Adams has bigger arms. Peck is more just kind of like core and structure. But Steven Adams, I think he could get you probably to the beach.
How would he
100 yards?
How would he throw him though? Would it be sort of underhanded? It wouldn't be shot putted, right? Like, how would he throw if Steven Adams had to grab Stugotz and throw him? How physically would he do it?
Is it like a bouncer, like chucking someone out of a nightclub,
like the belt?
Yeah, by the belt and the front of the shirt, doing one of those.
How do you imagine that would go? What would be the most efficient way to do that?
I think like a bag of soil, right? Like if you're at Home Depot and you're grabbing bags of soil and you're throwing it onto the cart, like I think that's how you're doing it. Like, the belt, back of the shirt, and you kind of do a little 1, 2, 3 swing and then just let it fly.
Such a good example by him. Those things are so awkward to pick up and toss.
Yes.
Those damn soil bags.
And you're trying to not get soil on your hands as well.
And you always do.
You're trying.
There's always
it's
a hole.
inevitable.
There's always
it's
a hole.
inevitable.
Yeah.
And it's always underneath your nails, so it's there for 3 days.
All of the same would be true of the bag of fertilizer known as Stugotz. It's something that Steven Adams would have the scent on him for a long time as he hurled. Did you get good responses to this though? Because you mentioned Pekovic, and Stan Van Gundy tells the great story of yelling at Dwight Howard for not boxing him out, and Dwight just saying, "You don't understand, Stan. He's the strongest man in the world." And when Stan heard that from Dwight Howard, he's like, "You know what? I probably have this wrong. I'm a frumpy guy who belongs on the cover of a pizza box. If Dwight Howard says someone's strong, this person's probably strong." Does anyone rival Steven Adams there? Because last week I loved Boogie trying to back down Draymond, and Draymond not giving an inch, and all of a sudden next thing I see is Boogie, who was dominating the inside, decide, okay, I'll go fade away here, because I imagine Draymond is uncommonly strong.
Yeah, and he's just got a low center of gravity, right? Like I don't think people realize how big and strong these athletes are, because I was playing pickup once in a game that had Landry Fields, and Landry Fields is probably the most average size NBA player you can get. He's like 6'6", 210 pounds. He set a screen on me, and I thought I dislocated my shoulder. And it wasn't like a dirty screener. Like, it was just a regular screen. And I thought, oh no, like I have to go to the doctor now. And so imagine like extrapolating that into Steven Adams' size. I thought it was disrespectful. A lot of people said, oh, probably about 6 to 10 feet. Take Stugotz, and he's going easily 75 yards.
Guillermo, put it on the
It's like a
poll.
Hail Mary.
At Le Batard Show. Is Landry Fields an asshole for setting a pick during Zach Harper's pickup game? Russell Westbrook has taken the Lakers stuff off all his social media.
Oh, it's enough of the taking off of social media.
So annoying.
We need a new move.
How do you do it?
It's time for a new move. How do you do it?
Stugotz does not know. Hey, he's still got 790 ESPN on his Twitter Twitter account because he does not know how to remove it. He doesn't.
Stugotz 790. That was like 3 jobs ago.
I'm still holding out hope. I mean,
for a return to 790.
790 and ESPN.
Doing middays.
But what do you make of this? When we talked to you guys initially, as soon as this happened, I mentioned this again and again, that Haberstroh and Amin said the moment it happened, Russell Westbrook is a disaster there. You would have been better off as a Laker if you had not added him at all, just added nobody. That's a bad contract. For it in a year to expire that way and Westbrook to be like, I am so done with all of these people, it's still a little bit shocking.
It is shocking. I almost wonder if there's some kind of underhanded move to acquiring him, in that maybe LeBron realized, well, this isn't going to go well, right? Like, AD got hurt last year, and, I'm feeling my age, and I don't know if we can put this roster together. I don't know if guys want to come here. Well, who can we get to deflect the blame? Because we can't just blame it on the coach all year. Well, Russ is pretty hated on the internet. He's a very polarizing figure. And so I almost wonder if LeBron was like, let's get Russ in here. If it works, great. If not, he can be our scapegoat.
Really? You really believe that's something that would be calculated? You think that...
Look it up.
Oh, yes. LeBron calculated?
Look it up. Yeah. Thank you, Zach. Look it up. Look what up. What am I looking...
I'm so proud of you, Zach.
What am I looking up there? Exactly.
He's right. I found it.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Billy. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks, Billy.
He's always there for you. You have a top 5 list of bucket getters for us. You thought our list was flawed?
I did. Well, I love Tony's list. I thought Tony had a great. I also have top 5 pickup moments if you pick up basketball moments.
Okay, hold on a second though. But I got a lot of top 5s. Okay, but Tony came on here. You thought his top 5 from the elbow was good, even though he had a top 10 from the elbow and didn't have Tim Duncan anywhere in there.
He also didn't have Paul Pierce, who was infamous for hitting elbow jumpers. So that was my confusion. But he still had everybody on the list was good. Mm-hmm. I just would have had Paul Pierce and Tim Duncan in there.
Right. Maybe Rick Smits too.
Yeah, Rick Smits. I mean, especially when he went bald in the playoffs with the rest of those guys, like you couldn't stop him from the elbow.
The Flying Dutchman.
Number 5, Zach Harper. What are we doing? Elbow or bucket getters? Number 5, bucket getters. Number 5.
Michael Beasley. You said he's inefficient? Inefficient Michael Beasley, 46% from the field for his career. He is a bucket. Do you follow him on Instagram? It's just videos of him getting buckets in workouts and him yelling, "We the ones, we're the ones, we're the ones." Like no one can guard him in a workout.
Real ballers know. Number 4.
In a workout.
It's real hoopers. No, Dan, stop it, please.
Number 4.
It's fine.
Lou Williams. Not a crossover on that list.
Number 3.
Mahmoud Abdul Rauf.
Excellent.
That was Jamal Crawford's number 1.
Yes.
Number 2.
Oh, that's apropos because Jamal Crawford, number 2 on my list.
Jay crossover.
And number 1.
I made this list just because I have a bone to pick with Dan on this. His nickname was Get Buckets. He wrote Get Buckets on his shoes before anybody else did. It's Ricky Davis.
Wow.
You talk about inefficient.
Wow.
44.6% field goal percentage for his career. What was Kobe's? 44.7.
What was
You're right. Ricky's better.
What was Ricky Davis?
Mm-hmm.
Ricky did think he was better. What was Ricky Davis what was his shooting percentage whenever it is that they let him take 30 shots in a game?
I don't know.
They relied on him.
I assume it was a win. They didn't let that happen a lot.
Number 5, elbow. Are you doing number 5 from the elbow?
I'll do number 5 from the elbow. I can do that too.
All right. Oh, you don't have that one ready, though. You have to go to a different list?
Off the top of the head. I do have top 5 pickup basketball moments if you want that.
Mm-hmm.
I once saw, so I'm looking at Ricky Davis's basketball reference page. In one season, he averaged 16 2-point attempts per game and shot 41.7% from them. A perimeter player with 16 2-point attempts per game.
Shoot.
How many of those were triple teamed?
So Ricky,
Look that up.
Ricky Davis. Oh yes,
Exactly.
please go look that up.
No, I'm definitely going to the game logs on the
Billy's got it.
2002,
Get back to
2003
us.
Cleveland Cavaliers.
He's right.
Thank you, Billy.
Thank you, Billy. You're always
17
there.
and 65.
Number 5. Go
Which
ahead.
one?
Pick up basketball feelings. Number 5.
Hitting the shot and then yelling, "You better get on me."
That's a good one. Yep. You better guard this.
Number 4.
Crossing half court without the ball and being picked up by a defender.
Number 3.
Shooting the game winner, saying ball game, and then the ball goes through the hoop.
Yes. Wow, that's number 3. Jesus, you got 2 better than that.
What about missing after you yell that?
But you have 2 better than calling game?
Yes, number 2.
Christmas.
Yes.
And number 1, the best feeling in pickup basketball is
Crossing half court with the ball, and the defense yells, "Shooter! He's a shooter!"
They've identified you.
Nick Collison.
Sometimes they'll just yell Jimmer Fredette. You know, one of
Right.
those.
Is this the exclusive domain of white guys?
This guy gets it.
Nick Collison said that for 10 years, everyone always said shooter when he ran on a court, and he'd look over his shoulder. He'd be like,
He knew he couldn't shoot.
He's like, who? Not me, no.
Brick Collison.
Thank you, Zach. Good talking to you. Good seeing you. Cinephobe. It debuts, re-debuts, hard launch, whatever it is you want to call it.
What?
Brick Collison. Thank you, Zach. We appreciate it, sir.
Thanks, guys. Anytime.
Thank you, Zach.
Stugotz, did you enjoy watching? I really do feel that Ja Morant's father has become a star during these finals. It is fun. He is unimpressed, wildly unimpressed by his son, less impressed by his son than the rest of us are.
He's very hard on his son.
When
Yes.
he can say and Ja said the same thing after that first round series. He said he played like trash as well, but his father, who's got the courtside seats and was having wagers with Karl Anthony Towns, his dad, throughout that series. Memphis usually has to suffer this one before it's allowed to flourish into something. I'd be stunned if
Before it climbs, you mean?
if Memphis was to get out of that series, just because if you look at what Poole is doing and you're like, oh my God, are you kidding me with that team where it's going to be Steph Curry and Clay are going to be secondary options because Poole's going to be taking more shots than anybody else and playing more efficiently, so efficiently that on a night they don't have Draymond and Steph and Clay are just okay offensively, Poole carries them.
He was 12 of 20. He played so well. He had, I think, 9 assists, 8 rebounds, like a near triple-double on the road for Jordan Poole. To answer your question, as long as Ja Morant's okay with what it is his dad is doing, I'm okay with it because it's wildly entertaining. Like, he is running up and down the court. He is high-fiving fans. He's talking to Steph and Clay after the game, and they're hugging him. Like, I don't know. It's entertaining to me. It's pretty cool to see a dad so proud of what it is his son has been able to do in just a couple of years for an entire organization. Kind of cool.
How old is T. Morant? Is younger than Tom Brady, right? Because I'm assuming that he doesn't look very old to me, and I'm assuming that most people in sports are younger than Tom Brady. So
This feels like a dangerous game that we're playing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but what do you think? I have no idea how he looks young. He doesn't look like he's 45 years old. I have no idea what age he was when he had Ja Morant, but Ja Morant is he's in his early 20s and he's playing a style, Stugotz, that size of player is never allowed to win unless it's Isaiah Thomas. That size player, once things get ratcheted up in the defense, on the defensive end, no matter how athletic you are, and he is more fast twitch muscle fiber than anybody. Memphis was great the second half of the season. Memphis was great with him. Memphis was greater without him somehow, statistically, because they've got a lot of young bodies, but that team, the team that they've run up against in the second round, that is a brutal place to have your season. And this season, when Memphis is really, really good, but championship good, is decided by a point at home against a team that can hit you from a lot of different angles.
It felt like 2-on-5 yesterday. Jackson was great. Morant was great. The other guys that normally show up for Memphis did not show up. Brooks wasn't very good. Bane
but he was
wasn't
pretty
very
good until he wasn't, though. I mean, like, he was doing a lot of the things off of the bench that he does.
He was 3 of 13.
Bane is the one that wasn't very good.
Well, Brooks had some really bad moments as well in that game. I think he was like 3 of 13 until he made some big shots late. But yeah, Memphis is a young team. I think this is the first season that they're here. They're going to be here for a while, and maybe they have one more trade to make. They'll have some assets in order to really have a go at this, but they got the guy that's the most difficult guy to find in John Morant, the guy who at the end of games can get to the rim. It's extraordinary when you look at, there's options
he leads
to
the
defend.
NBA at points in the paint.
That's insane.
But their team in general, this kind of player is not allowed to exist very often, where he's smaller, thinner than everyone else, where Patrick Beverley backs him down and hits him with a too small because he's smaller than everyone else, and yet he can. What are you making a face at?
That team. And Patrick Beverley in particular. But Minnesota, who set an NBA record, the first team to blow 3 double-digit fourth-quarter leads. They got so ahead of themselves in that series. But, I mean, Beverley doing too small to John Morant, who then went down and leaped over, it would appear, a 7-footer. It seemed like he climbed 14 feet into the air, and he's doing too small to jump. Like, what is Patrick Beverley doing? Think he's the best player on Minnesota?
I love Patrick Beverley. I don't know why I do this, because I had Patrick Beverley playing for 9 teams when he's only played for 3, which is shocking to me. But also what I associate Patrick Beverley with, and I don't think this is historically accurate, but it's what I'll do for the rest of the time. You're always out in the first round. Get out of my life in the first round every time. A team that features you, out.
If they're relying on you.
Get out of here. Right. Too small, defense, irritant, out.
And Minnesota was probably the better team in that series. This is a year early for Memphis. If they played, I think even if they played a team like Utah, as bad as they've been, as Zach Harper just told us, they probably wanted to get out of the playoffs. But any team with any level of playoff experience probably could have taken care of Memphis. And Minnesota, even without any, should have beaten the Memphis Grizzlies as the 7th seed, but they just couldn't get out of their own way because Beverley is telling John Morant that he's too small. Please.
I love a lack of self-awareness. Speaking of which, were these quotes real from Royce White when he was talking about Ben Simmons? Because if I'm fooled by the internet, I deserve to be, because I did not check this on secondary sources, but I did read that Royce White had said that if it was him, he would be playing in Game 4 of Ben Simmons. And more than a few people pointed out that Royce White played in 3 NBA games.
I think you've been ball-sacked.
Yes. A lot to get to, Stugotz, in this hour. Your weekend observations, funniest thing of the sports weekend. I don't know who's going to be able to top the Seahawks quarterback competition being front run right now by Geno Smith on funniest thing from the sports weekend.
Baker's just going to get cut, right? And then someone will sign him. Like, what is going on there?
It's weird.
Well, I mean, if you're a team, you're not going to give up stuff to take on a guy's contract. And when everyone knows that Cleveland has to release him because they can't keep his cap number.
But last year, this show was talking about how he was going to sign a bigger deal than any quarterback had ever signed this offseason. And there were injuries, but, like, no team wants him right now.
I can't believe – honestly, I'm stunned by that. Like, that teams think so little of him that you can't very easily rationalize that he very clearly was injured last year. He was not the same guy. His level of performance in the previous 2 seasons would indicate that he could at least be a trusted starter by somebody.
I don't think that's the case. I think the case is exactly what you pointed out, is that no one wants to carry that cap number with them when they don't have to. If they're just going to release him, they're not going to keep him on the roster.
Stugotz, I do want everyone listening this, like, to understand what the pressure is of this sport to play while injured when Baker Mayfield, if not ending his career, has really damaged it by trying to tough it out and bought himself nothing from his organization in terms of loyalty, from his fan base, from the general football populace. Like, when it was happening in the middle of last season, Stugotz, I remember saying to you guys, and you and Mike bit my face off when I'm like, he'd be better off just sitting the rest of the season than to try to keep playing. You're like, no, he's got to play. You got to play. You got to always play. And now 6 months later, nothing. Like, just it all dries up. You got to be that short-sighted about your career because the pressure's coming at you howling, and it's got teeth, the pressure does, and it's from everywhere. It's in your locker room, it's the media, it's people yelling on ESPN. Everyone, get your ass out there, even though 6 months later you're going to be pretty damn worthless at a position that there are only a few jobs like this in the world, and you should take care of your body as we complain about load management and everything else.
Sounds like an I told you so. I mean, what are you doing here? That's not you. You're better than that. That's what I do.
No, but I think you're right. It is, and I told you so. But it's also put yourself. I was trying to put you in the mind of Baker Mayfield as he was making that decision, and it's not really a choice, Stugotz. No one remembers this part. You don't get anything for whatever that toughness was, that sacrifice. You don't get anything for it in the moment unless you win, and you sure as shit don't get it when it comes time for people to assign the values. And your career just got shortened, and you're going to have to fight your way back from whatever, because the toughness and being married teammate guy, it got you nothing. Nothing. It doesn't get you one iota of credit anywhere from anyone assigning value to that position.
But look at the opposite. Like, look at Kyrie and Ben Simmons, who never seem to want to play. Like, and they get crushed also. So there has to be a happy medium, right?
But no, there doesn't. Just an unhappy medium of cruelty everywhere and criticism everywhere. And no, it's not a happy medium. It's everyone putting pressure on you, and there will be no winner unless you're Tom Brady holding up the trophy at the end.
But you're acting like the career is over. He'll get another chance.
I know, but the value has been diminished. Look at how the value has been diminished when a guy was being assessed based on a body that wasn't working right. Like, look, okay, you're right. He'll get another chance, but now he's got to claw his way and fight his way back, and now the contract is a burden. And now Geno Smith is the front runner in Seattle because that's where worthless got that fast. And I really do think you should take inventory of it, because we've been bad for a long time assessing value at that position. All these draft experts now have done a really poor job, in that the guy who's redefining the sport was taken in the 6th round. Everyone passed on him. Baker Mayfield was a sure thing in the new evolved NFL of small people can do this too. Look at what Russell Wilson has done. Look at what Kyler Murray can do. Look at what these small people can do. And he got hurt by J.J. Watt, planted like in the ground by his shoulder like you'd plant a flag, and his labrum tore, and he tried to play through it. And here we are. Now his contract, now he's worthless. When people need quarterbacks, Geno Smith is higher on the list than Baker Mayfield.
But was Baker ever a sure thing? Like, I feel like that's just this show and Mike's bias.
Well, it's a number one overall pick.
Mayfield.
I mean, it's a number one overall.
2 years ago, I thought he was going to be great. He had a great season.
You take the quarterback number one overall, he's supposed to succeed.
And he represented a change. Was he in the same draft as Josh Allen? Because he represented a different way of analyzing the position, where Josh Allen was the physical gifts guy and Baker Mayfield represented, well, we're judging quarterbacks based off their performance and more specifically their accuracy and their lack of desire to turn the ball over. And Baker represented that kind of we value accuracy. And I think that in some ways he's proven that out over the course of his career. But like you said, and it's not only... I think in some ways it's the death of the rah, I play through anything, I'm tough guy, because you also have to go back to the example of Isaiah Thomas in basketball, who forever harmed his hip in the service of trying to tough it out for the Boston Celtics, who then traded him, and he left probably $70-80 million on the table as a result of trying to play through injury.
There's also probably something to be said for the damaged relationship between Mayfield and the Browns that then led them to retaining him the week that they were seeking out Deshaun Watson, and then they weren't in the Deshaun Watson game, and then they were back in it, and then they got stuck with both of them, and they clearly want Deshaun Watson, and they might be waiting to see if there's a suspension before they either release him or trade him, and they basically tanked his trade value by making it an untenable situation to maintain both of them. I still think he's probably worthwhile to start on another team, but like Woody said, why would you trade for someone when they might get released and then you can just pick them up in free agency?
If you can go, though, to the center of this, and I know that he doesn't make for very good martyr because people are enjoying that the high expectations of the Browns were not met, and that their quarterback, one of the best they've ever had as a franchise, because it's hard to get good ones, their quarterback failed at the end after being the guy with all of the commercials. I simply say to you, wherever Baker Mayfield thought he was at the beginning of that journey doing all the commercials, the human being under that is not only hurt physically, he has every right to be hurt by what football just did to him, even though it's a cruel, cold business and everyone understands that it's business.
But he didn't fail at the end, and he'd probably still be their quarterback if they didn't get Deshaun Watson, who became available because of all of those atrocities. So he didn't fail.
But that's how cold the business is my point. My point on all of it is Baker played hurt for them, and the sexual predator represents an upgrade, and that's how cold that business is. It doesn't matter that you played hurt for them. It buys you nothing. Here's to all your loyalty. Get the bleep out of here. We don't want you anymore.
But to me, I think it's so interesting that other teams aren't able to separate that context. Like, do they just think that Baker Mayfield is irreparably hurt? Because it's very clear that he's at the very least in the bottom end of NFL starting caliber quarterbacks.
When he was healthy and when he played well healthy for the Browns, he was somebody who was serviceable, like somebody better than Sam Darnold,
better than that,
better than Andy Dalton, better than
top 10 in QBR,
better than all these guys who get chances all over the place. When he was healthy, he was fine. But that's my entire point on this is that's how quickly it can deteriorate, even in the eyes of the people who are doing the analysis and doing the value judgments. Because as I've been telling you for a couple of weeks around here, do you realize the people who in leadership in sports, they are not good at the value assessments. Like, they stink at it. It's getting there now. The assessments are getting there now, but these are not the forward-thinking visionaries. They're not. These are people who have run organizations a certain way from the Gettleman school of running organizations, who think with a great deal of ego that they know how to assess better than anyone else something that is largely unscientific, and they fall into the same potholes as the rest of us when Baker Mayfield plays hurt and it buys him nothing.
But to say he was fine is not giving Baker enough credit, because he was better than fine. He was really good. He had 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and his quarterback rating was like 96.5. Like, that's really good.
But is it possible that NFL GMs and front offices are doing exactly what you're asking them to do, which is be forward thinking and say either they don't believe that what happened there was real, that it was skill position talent, that it was system or whatever, and that they watch Baker Mayfield and go, you can look at those numbers, you can look at him before he was healthy, while he was unhealthy. That's not a starting caliber quarterback. Now, the contract thing is difficult to separate. I imagine he's going to start some games for somebody this year, but maybe they're measuring him as not a good quarterback.
It's impossible to separate it, though, because it doesn't have to be either or of those things. It doesn't have to be he is a good quarterback or he isn't a good quarterback. It's in the new math of we get value at this position in a salary capped sport. He's too expensive. Like, however valuable he is, he's not valuable at that rate. If I can get Mac Jones to do something else as we recalibrate what the top of that position means.
He's $19 million next year. $19 million.
But it is the assessment of value in very cold monetary terms that Baker Mayfield may be valuable at $7 million, but isn't as valuable at $19 million, or may be valuable as whatever Geno Smith costs, but not the same kind of valuable if I'm in a salary cap sport. And one of the advantages I have to gain is I have to get my quarterback cheap so I can have all of the talent around him, because again, salary cap.
I also want to talk about something you said, which is that football did this to him. And I do feel like in some respects, Baker did do this to himself because he kind of believes in something that is somewhat admirable, which is play through all costs, play hurt, because that's the thing that great football players do. The greats even play through injury. And part of that is the mystique of football's history. But I also think like that's a somewhat admirable pursuit from Baker Mayfield, is I need to be out there for my guys, even if I'm hurt. Even though I'm a worse version of myself, I still give my team the best chance to win.
The cost of that nobility is literally your career? Like the end part of your career? Or how the cost of that nobility is that nobody wants you right now?
I think Cleveland would have been fine playing Case Keenum for a few games. I really do. But Baker Mayfield didn't want that to happen. And whether that's because of self-preservation, because he feels like he's got to play in order to get that contract, or whether he genuinely believes that it's an admirable pursuit to keep playing through injury, I think that Baker Mayfield was the driver of wanting to keep playing, and that ended up being a fruitless endeavor.
Baker seems like a bargain when you consider that Ryan Tannehill is going to cost $29 million next year. Ryan Tannehill, $29 million. And Jared Goff, $33 million. So it does seem like a bargain, and it is a little bit odd why no team is really interested in trading for a salary for a quarterback who was top 10 in QB rating 2 years ago and is making just $18 million this year.
Well, if you're interested, you also know if I just wait a little bit, I can get him for next to nothing.
There's that.
It's a gamble because if you play, he obviously believed he could play well enough to like prove that he was someone who the Browns would want to then keep and then sign for more money. He probably didn't because he was so banged up by the end of the season. But the counterpoint to that would have been him sitting out, and then it looks like he doesn't want to play there, and then maybe they don't pay him anyway. So it was really just a poorly timed injury, and playing through it probably didn't help. I mean, it definitely didn't help his case.
When I say that he had no choice and football did this to him, the nature of how all of us are around this, there's not a choice. Look what happens to Ben Simmons when he chooses game 4 over game 3. There's not a choice. And football is more cutthroat than basketball is about these things. He had to come back. And the cost was only going to be his, Stugotz, because the cost of that nobility is whatever they were, 8 and 9 or 7 and 10 or whatever it is that they were. That was the difference, a field goal difference between the top of that division and the bottom of it. You have to win, right? Because I thought you were mentioning the other Isaiah Thomas, the one who won a championship on a broken foot in the fourth quarter.
Right.
I thought that's the
only way you win doing that. Yes.
That's you have to win.
You have to win.
You can't. Your only choice is the Browns had to kick a couple more field goals and actually do what the Bengals did, and then they wouldn't be looking for an upgrade. The Browns would be the Bengals, and they wouldn't be looking for an upgrade. Deshaun Watson would not have been in their plans.
But Baker's looking for that narrative by continuing to play. Like that's part of, I think, something that athletes are very attracted to. You know, Jimmy Butler playing through injury and all of these guys that, you get to say, like hockey players get to say after they win the Stanley Cup, oh yeah, I was playing the entire time on a broken leg. Like athletes love that shit. And like I do think that everyone's trying to write that storybook, I played through injury, whether it's the industrial complex that does it to them or they do it to themselves.
Love that shit right up until Joel Embiid with ligaments in his shooting hand that are strained wearing a mask is out in 5 games and people are burying him for being an MVP.
He's going to play, but he shouldn't.
I have an important update from like 3 hours ago. Oh, wow.
What do you got?
Yeah, because we're putting out the podcast now, so people that were listening to the non-live versions are giving me updates. Mm-hmm. Remember we were talking about F1 and how they're building a marina in the middle of Miami Gardens?
Yeah. Yes.
Where there's no water access, and I said that they should put the race at Tamiami Park, which only people down here get. When there were races at Tamiami Park, they built a fake lake, and they put boats there.
I mean, isn't like dredging and filling like the history of the state of Florida, right? Like the swamp peddlers started that 100 years ago.
Didn't they find like, and I could be wrong, but didn't they find like just giant dump trucks and stuff like that, like in lakes at golf courses that they just dug out and then they just left the dump truck there and just filled it with water.
Well, Inter Miami are trying to build a soccer stadium on top of one of those areas. They have to dig out basically ground that is filled with arsenic and then build the stadium on top of it. It might cost them upwards of $100 million to clean out basically just a bunch of places where we dumped trash.
What a great thing to rummage through if you want to find out all of the weirdnesses that Miami has birthed in the last 100 years. The secrets that are buried underneath that golf course.
Everything.
Dump trucks and everything else. Because what was there? There was a movie. There was a gritty old movie here. It's not actually old. It's a recent movie about how. I'm gonna blow this.
Scarface?
Here. No, I'm gonna blow this.
Dude, where's my car?
Yeah, now you guys are just gonna distract me. It's a Western here over the last 5 or 6 years about the decay of
Bad Boys
of Houston and sort of Texas regions.
Bad Boys 2.
And they were dumping cars after they would rob banks. I'm forgetting the name of the movie. They would just dump the way they would get away with the getaway cars. They would just bury.
Is it Hell or High Water?
Thank you.
Get in there.
Wow, I thought it was Bad Boys Forever.
I googled Western Decay of Houston, Texas, Rob Banks movie.
Okay, thank you, Whittingham. I appreciate you doing some fluency in that code because he really had a wheelhouse here. He was going to try, you trying to be helpful and him trying to be maximum not helpful on live television. Him and Billy were going to try and distract me.
I didn't say anything.
70 different
You leave Billy
movies.
out of this.
No, because those movies, you were not coming up with them. I saw Billy. I saw the smile on his face as you were just a parrot over here, meant to badger me live on television because I was going to drown in that, and you both knew it. Time now for the funniest thing from the sports weekend.
Hey, people, tell us what in the sport made you laugh hard this weekend. It is a segment we call What Made You Laugh This Weekend. Ha ha ha!
Funniest thing from the sports weekend is presented by our friends at CBD MD.
Before we get to this, Billy, I was told that you have an update for me that's nebulous on T. Morant, the father of Ja Morant.
Yeah, so it turns out he was teammates with Ray Allen. So I looked in high school. So I looked up Ray Allen, who is now 46 years old, but turns 47 July 20th. So if he was high school teammates with him, we have a range of 3 years before and 3 years after if he's not the same age. So he could be anywhere from 43 years old to 50 years old. Now, when we looked online, it just said between 40 and 50, but because of the fact that they were high school teammates, I think that we've narrowed it down from somewhere between 43 and 50.
Okay, thank you. So we're within 7 years. With the internet at our disposal.
So it's possible that he is younger than Tom Brady, as you said before, but it's also possible he's not. Either way, he's in the range.
Tony, what was the funniest thing from the sports weekend?
Me going to do some stuff with the Miami Heat and then your dad showing up with a chain around his neck, with un palo, with a hatchet, It was weird seeing him.
The funniest thing was you.
I'm the funniest.
No, the funniest thing was Poppy. I was doing something else, and I saw him trying to break in.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate it. Max Strus, that will have other parts, that story. My father showed up at the arena with a hatchet trying to kill Max Strus because my mom's got a crush on him. Chris Cody, what was the funniest thing from the sports weekend?
Apparently, we're miking up NBA referees now because yesterday it made news when Scott Foster and Ed Malloy had no idea who Jack Harlow was. There's part of me a little skeptical, Billy, of is he doing jazz hands because he knows he's mic'd up? But it was really adorable of them just having no clue about pop culture.
Why would Scott Foster know who Jack Harlow is?
I'm with Whitty on this one.
Why wouldn't he? I mean,
no one over the age of 40 knows who Jack Harlow is.
I feel like they've at least heard the name before.
I love this part of it, though, Chris. If I give you these three names and you know nothing else, who's the famous rapper? Jack Harlow, Ed Malloy, or Scott Foster?
Ed Malloy.
Well, I'd go Foster. Scott Foster seems like a rapper's name. Yeah.
I mean, more so than Ed Malloy and Jack Harlow, but every time I hear Ed Malloy, there's only one thing I think of.
Down by 2, 198, inbound to Love on the left side with one dribble, goes up for the shot, it's blocked by Marion. The ball comes into the arms of Dalibert. The horn sounds and the ball game is over. The Timberwolves are screaming for a foul. There was none called. Rubio off to Love. Oh, that's a foul! That is unbelievable. The referees are booed as they go off the floor. Brutal! David Guthrie is right there. He didn't have the guts to call it. Also, Ed Malloy!
So which one is the famous rapper?
It is so good. Timberwolves Radio Network. The last bit of it, the escalation of it, and just the last little bit of it where the fury reaches great crescendo, and you can just hear this. We've all felt this for this man. We felt it for Scott Foster too, but it's something that exists deep, deep in the bowels of your sports hatred, and you all recognize the escalation.
Brutal! David Guthrie is right there. He didn't have the guts to call it. Also, Ed Malloy!
Billy, what was the funniest thing from the sports weekend?
Ed Marinaro making the NFL draft about himself. Yeah, that was great.
Can you give me more? Because you love this and you love the anarchy in it. Is there anything else that you love other than the awkward discomfort?
I mean, I didn't find it awkward. He was an older gentleman. He gave me kind of Chuck Pagano vibes, honestly. He walked out, sauntered out onto the stage and just started, telling his story about how the NFL draft impacted his life. And then he just started telling other stories about other things, and then just kind of kept talking about what he thought about Minnesota at one point.
It's the way you would do it.
Yeah, I mean, he was just...
Your moment. Yeah.
He sensed, the crowd was there. And, Dan, you've been to live events. Those things get boring. You're just there, it's 30 seconds of action, and then you're just kind of waiting around. So he said, you know what? Let's kind of engage the audience here. And then a producer said, get the hell off the stage.
A producer who looked like Jessica, a lot like Jessica. I love many things about this, but one of them, because I read his interview, a defensive and sort of defiant interview, I think, with the St. Paul Pioneer Press. Ed Marinaro was just like, he was just like, I was just trying to have fun with it. Like, there were thousands of people out there, and I got caught up in it. I was just trying to have fun, and you guys won't leave me alone. But everybody was like, you made that too much about you were on Hill Street Blues in the 80s.
Look at me, Louie. Can you imagine if every pick took that long to announce? Oh, it'd be great. Oh, it'd be interminable.
But
I want to hear their stories.
Every pick does take that long. It just breaks in between them. Like, the pick is in, the other one's on the clock already. Just let's fill some of it with story time,
Did you guys see the Chris Angel stunt at the beginning of the second round of the draft?
Hold on a second. How are we criticizing this man but praising Kyle Brandt, who also was look at me, Louie, with his draft pick?
Because Kyle Brandt did it without a hiccup and did it quickly.
He did it without a stage manager telling him to get on with it.
He did it in the allotted time under a minute.
Show Ed some respect.
Exactly. Walk a mile in Ed's shoes.
Pretty privilege.
Jessica, what was the funniest thing from the sports weekend?
Lydia Ko. She made Jerry Foltz short circuit on Golf Channels. Did you see this last night?
I did not.
Lydia Ko, she's an LPGA golfer. She had to get like a back treatment done during a round, and Jerry Foltz asked her like what was going on, and she said it was her time of the month, and she gets like lower back pain sometimes, and she was like, all the people watching, like, they know what I'm talking about. And Jerry Foltz just like absolutely short circuited, and he could not think of anything to say, and it was very awkward.
Was he just staring at the camera?
So it was one of those.
So he was faced with the idea of a menstrual cycle, and he was so discombobulated by it making an appearance during a golf interview that he simply was unable to speak.
He was unable to speak. Yes, that's correct. I'd like to see what Whittingham would do in that position, because I imagine it would be.
Well, Whittingham, a lot of people were texting and tweeting and saying that that Whittingham, you had a golden opportunity during the Celtics game. That again, these guys talked midsection when. One of the Williamses got hit in the penis, and you were saying that what was Greenberg? What did Mike Greenberg call it today? His ding ding.
His ding ding. I believe Jessica has a top 5 list of most ridiculous ways to refer to the male organ. Every time anyone gets hit in the penis, Robert Williams got kicked in the penis, and it seemed like he got hit in the penis, not the testicles. Because that seemed like a lengthy amount of time to have that amount of pain.
Mm-hmm.
And lengthy.
Yeah. And so I every time it happens now, I get tweeted about it. I'm terrified that it's going to happen again. But as ever, broadcasters let me down. No one wants to follow me into the breach of saying penis on television.
Mike Greenberg went with ding ding, though. Hit in the ding ding. Number 5, Jessica. Top 5 funniest ways to refer to the Morgan, the male organ. Number 5.
I put ding dong.
It is ding dong.
Because I've never heard ding ding before. Ding ding is
It's a smaller version. It's a baby's version. A baby doesn't have a ding dong. A baby's got a ding ding. Number 4.
How do you know?
Willie.
Number 3.
PP.
Number
2
2
is Christmas.
Number 1.
Weenie.
Yeah, weenie.
If you're saying any of these things on TV, shame on you. You're a weenie.
I think Ding Ding might be something that climbs very high on that
Ding
list.
Ding is not even on the list. Ding Dong is number 5.
Please, no need to be so aggressive about the protection of your list. I know.
Ding dong.
I know. It's ding dong.
She wanted to make sure you were clear, Dan. That's
Whittingham, what was the funniest thing from the sports weekend?
Greg Cody's Phil Taylor anecdote falling apart on the Greg Cody podcast.
That's not the only one that fell apart. We also had Hal Habib on to talk about the 50-yard field goal. I don't want to give any spoilers away,
God,
but
that's
it is great.
That is
It
a
is
good
great.
episode. Wait a minute. Are you kidding me? That is a good
Wait,
episode.
say it again, please.
Okay, so
Yes.
I need to update the audience here who's not familiar with this whole backstory. But Greg Cody, delusional, self-confident athlete Greg Cody, has been telling for years 2 stories that he says have witnesses in backup. One is a 50-yard field goal he claims was witnessed by Hal Habib, formerly of the Miami Herald, now of the Palm Beach Post. Hal Habib is on the Greg Cody Show featuring Greg Cody to talk about the alleged
And he remembers it in great
50-yard
detail.
field goal.
Awesome.
And then beating Phil Taylor of Sports Illustrated in a foot race, which might not have actually happened, but is how Greg Cody remembers it.
It is chef's kiss, both of them. They do not disappoint.
Excellent.
Stugotz, what was the funniest thing from the sports weekend?
There was a celebrity flag football game over the weekend, Dan. Jameis Winston was playing his position of quarterback. Tariq Hill was not playing his position of defensive back, and Tariq Hill picked him off.
Yeah, I saw that very fast. Tariq Hill.
Yes.
Tariq Hill. He moves very quickly, and we all get to laugh at Jameis Winston, who graduated from FSU this weekend after 7 years. Stugotz. Jameis Winston.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah. What happened, Billy?
No, that's great. You don't think that's awesome?
It is. Yes.
By the way, speaking of graduations, we have a bone to pick, and by we, I mean Chris Cody started it, and I'm ready to jump on with Ron McGill tomorrow.
Chris Cody started it. That's rich.
Go ahead. What is it?
Ron McGill spoke at a commencement ceremony at the University of Florida, and he took a selfie from the stage, and there is an accusation of "Look at me, Louie" from the back row.
You know. He's on the stage. He has a selfie. He's pointing at himself in the crowd, and it's like, well,
He said it was one of the greatest days of his life.
yeah. I mean, a lot of
Graduation day for a lot of people.
People, a lot of people put in hard
Their
work,
day,
overcame
yeah.
hardships. You're just invited to talk. You know what I mean, man? Like, let's not make.
What do
this
you mean?
about us.
You don't think speaking
I'm
at a
gonna jump on board
commencement
with you guys.
ceremony
Yeah,
is an achievement worth celebrating?
I mean, it's okay, but yeah, they're the ones that did the hard work. If they didn't do the hard work, there'd be no graduation to speak at. You know what I mean? You had your day when you graduated from a university.
Stole their
already.
thunder.
Exactly.
Speaking at a commencement ceremony is very big. I would feel immense honor if anyone invited me to speak at there, and it would be an honor of a lifetime, and I'd want to document it.
From the draft, Stugotz, I thought one of my favorite things was that Matt Araiza of San Diego State, the punt god, is indignant and filled with vengeance because 2 punters were taken ahead of him in the draft.
As he should be.
Yes, he should be.
Matt Araiza was the best college punter ever. And the idea that 2 punters got drafted ahead of him, that dude has a vendetta. I've never
He's
seen.
coming for everyone in the league.
Yes, he should. Yeah, I've never seen a punter with a chip on their shoulder or a chip on their foot, I suppose. And he should absolutely have one.
It's not about what he did in college. We're trying to project here.
Exactly right.
I mean, 80-yard punts in college are the same as 80-yard
And
punts
the ball
in the
bounce
pros.
is weird.
Yeah,
you
it's a
never know
different
with a
ball.
ball bounce.
The ball's different.
Smaller
It's a different ball.
You
Yeah.
think those were cheap 80-yarders he
you
was
never know.
launching?
Yeah.
I bet these teams studied those better than we did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You know, the Ravens are studying who their punter is going to be. The Ravens of all teams, huh?
Time now for Stugotz's. We're going to segue seamlessly from that happy circus music into Stugotz's weekend observations. How are you feeling about this batch,
It is
Stugotz?
time for Stugotz
Pretty
to
good.
share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Weekend observations brought to you by Miller Lite. Great taste, 96 calories, available for delivery. Dan, despite an 82-game regular season that spans 8 months, it somehow still seems to sneak up on us every single year. In large part because we don't really care until it's convenient for us to care. Regardless, it's that time of year. Overtime. forechecking, fights, riding a hot goalie, handshake lines, and Dan, just like that.
Yes.
The greatest thing in sports that we don't care about until we do.
Yeah.
The Stanley Cup playoffs are back. Exciting, man. The Panthers.
That's right.
Wow.
I saw a doubleheader on both ESPN and ESPN2 this evening.
Get out of here.
For the Stanley Cup playoffs.
ESPN cares about hockey again. I wonder why.
I'm begging you. Someone, anyone, give the Jets an F. I'm serious.
It's all A's and A minuses.
No,
That's
people
all
are
I've
saying
seen.
it's the best draft any team has ever had, period.
Nobody's saying that.
The people are saying that.
I heard that.
No one has said that. Not a person has said that.
Look it up. Les Snead, Sean McVay, best looking head coach GM combination in sports history.
They were hammered.
They're good looking guys. Top 5 best looking coach GM combos in sports history.
Here we go.
Number 5, Cliff Kingsbury and anybody. Number 4, Pat Riley and Jerry West. Riles, the logo. Number 3, Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley. Number 2, Brian Flores and Chris Greer. What happened?
I just feel like you always fear making these lists
What do you mean?
white, and you just.
Are you saying Flores is not a good-looking man?
I'm saying Greer isn't. What? Not saying that.
I didn't say
Not
that.
what I'm saying. I didn't say that.
Number 2 on my list.
I believe you just went for diversity because you had to. There is what I'm saying.
Number 1, Sean McVay and Les Snead. I had no idea Les Snead was that good looking. You think of Les Snead, you think of a guy who's like 97, right? Les Snead?
We're not making lesses anymore.
Lester's. Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Are we still making lesses?
Best first round in the history of the NFL draft. Headline.
You're the worst.
What do you mean? It was great. Someone give me an F. Headline. Pell Zion on extension. Can't sign fast enough. That's cute. Also, don't sign too fast. Wouldn't want you to get hurt. Boris Becker, wiring money from your business to a bunch of offshore personal accounts. Boris, the Stugotz is strong in you. Just one time, I'd like to have an offshore account. Sounds cool, right? Like, it seems exciting.
It does.
Doesn't
I'm not
it?
having that you don't have one. Not having that. You are a minus 1,000 favorite to have an offshore account. Swiss in specific.
Really?
Cayman Islands is what I had.
Yeah,
Going
Cayman.
Cayman.
Yeah.
A P.O. box in the Cayman.
Good shout.
Boris Becker, on name alone, sounds like a guy who could do 2.5 years in prison. The Clink. Top 5 tennis players who by name alone sound like they could also be in prison. Number 5, Goran Ivanisevic. The Rabbits.
Is Ilya Nastasi on here? Number 4.
We'll see. Roscoe Tanner.
Roscoe.
Tax fraud. Something like that, right?
You should see how misspelled the Ivanisevic is on those game notes.
Whatever.
I was trying to work with you how to pronounce that name. I'm like, Ivanisic is how it's spelled there.
I nailed it, though, right?
Number 3.
Ilya Nastasi.
Number 2.
Nasty. Boris Becker. Boom, boom.
You got to say it that way, though, if he's going to be in the Clink.
Probably not the nickname you want in the Clink.
Probably not.
Yeah.
No.
Number 1, Gabriella Sabatini. Espionage.
Thank you, Stugotz.
Here come the Yanks.
He wields it like a knife. His timing is so good on these useless sentences. Here come the Timberwolves.
Just me? Or does everyone assume every pick the Ravens make is a good one? I mean,
Wow.
I feel like all their players are going to be great.
You got a Jessica eye roll on that one.
Well,
Win a playoff game. And then
she
we'll
hates
talk.
the Ravens. They won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, like 10 years ago. Wasn't that in 2012?
It's them and the Patriots, right?
Yes.
Those are the two
Those
teams
are
we
the
think
two.
of.
Yeah.
Who's the third team in there?
An organization can't have credibility 10 years after winning a Super Bowl.
But
Then like
when was the last
4
time the
teams have
Steelers-
organizational
Exactly.
credibility.
The Steelers Super Bowl isn't worth shit anymore. It's
Do the Steelers
2009.
not have organizational credibility?
Well, they've won 6, Woody. There's a difference there. The Ravens have won 2. 6 is bigger than 2.
What are the standards to have organization? Do like 5 teams have organizational credibility?
Yes.
This is
maybe,
ridiculous.
Maybe fewer.
I mean,
Maybe 3 teams.
Heat haven't won anything since 2013.
what are we doing?
Exactly.
What are you doing?
So the Raptors have more organizational credibility than the Heat
we're
do?
living-
your standard that
We're
you
living
just
in
laid
the
out.
Right.
I know.
the
I'm not.
unhappy
I'm,
medium.
culture. I
I'm
mean-
saying we need to lay out a more lenient standard for organizational credibility. The Ravens still deserve it, despite not having won a Super Bowl in 10 years, because winning the Super Bowl is really goddamn hard.
Well, if your draft picks are so good, it can't be that hard.
They
I
got
mean,
Kyle Hamilton. You're not happy?
I was very sad that Kyle Hamilton dropped to 14 and the Ravens got him. That made me very upset. He should have been a top 10 pick, and the fact that the Ravens got him at 14 infuriates
Do you want to give us
Why
all
did the Steelers
your
take him?
draft thoughts? Because you watch more of
Steelers
this
were
than the
20s,
rest of us.
Stugotz.
Oh, they
How
were.
are you going to talk yourself into Kenny
Move up.
Pickett's small hands?
I like Kenny Pickett. He's a hometown kid. He played at Pitt for 5 years. You know he can play at Heinz Field in the climate in Pittsburgh. And you know what? He just needs to hand the ball up to Najee Harris like 45 times a game. We'll be fine. They're going to run a lot of jet sweeps with this really fast guy that they drafted. His last name's Austin. I don't remember his first name.
Doesn't
Those
matter.
are my draft thoughts. George Pickens also. 2 players with the name Pick in them that the Steelers picked.
I don't like players playing 5 years of college. That's a red flag for me.
Put it on the
But
poll.
there was COVID.
Do it in
Billy.
4.
Put it on the poll.
This was the
Do it in
oldest
3.
average year of
Or 2,
draftees in like NFL draft history.
One and
because
done.
Players got an extra year of eligibility because of the pandemic. So a lot of the players in the draft were a lot older than average this year.
9 p.m. NBA final starts are already giving me anxiety. Being done with the playoffs at 6:30 on Sunday, heavenly.
It was nice.
It was great.
It was nice. It was a nice little relief. I got
It's
my
awesome.
Sunday night. I could watch some Barry. I could catch up on Better Call Saul.
Yeah, I was sat last night. I was like, also, there's nothing to watch. I mean, I could watch Sunday Night Baseball, but let's be real. But
The Mets.
like, there was
I
no.
watched
Mets
that. I
Phils.
watched
I
the
mean-
Mets game. Oh my God, the Mets. What an awful way to end your weekend watching the Mets.
What, win?
Just play baseball.
They're good.
Did you like Lindor fielding a screaming 102-mile-an-hour liner while talking to the broadcast booth? Just
Very much so.
yes, like turning it into a double play while mic'd up.
This is nonsense. I was sitting there ranting against that to my wife. I was like, this is ridiculous. The game has changed. How's he supposed to concentrate? They're asking him questions. The ball could be hit to him, and then it was hit right at him, double play.
102 miles
And I
an
was just
hour.
like, okay.
It was the coolest thing you've ever
but
seen.
it's ridiculous. Why are we doing that?
Because baseball needs to
What a-
advance.
It's
Baseball
no, it
needs to
doesn't.
progress.
Chris,
Screw you.
No, it
if that's what
doesn't.
you need to
Chris.
watch baseball, we don't want you watching
They
baseball.
tried it in the All-Star game, and you and I came on the next day and said we loved it.
Yeah, it's nice in little fluky stuff. Like it's nice in spring training. It's nice in an all-star game. These games matter. It's a 2-1 game. Runner on first in the 5th inning, and he's just being asked about like
He made
what-
the play. I mean,
He's literally talking to his second baseman, and Carl Ravage is like, "What'd you just tell him there?" It's like he's talking about something in the game.
Why would you get mad about
I was
this?
angry about it. I don't
Ravi.
know. They're trying to change the game, but then he made a double play, and it was
What's
great
wrong with
television.
changing this game?
It's
but
amazing
you-
to hear someone in their 30s have that take.
No, but it's
Baseball.
no. But, I mean,
no, I'm having the take of why are we disturbing this guy in the
Yeah.
middle of his workday? Dan, right now, you're live. You're being interviewed. I mean, obviously this would be.
Stugotz tried to get me with Bad
good
Boy
point.
movies 5 minutes ago.
What
just
do you
a minute.
mean?
He actively. Now imagine the second bit. You're acting as if Keith Hernandez ran out of the Michael K-Rod show and tackled Francisco Lindor during the telecast.
He was trying to verbally distract him. It's like, hey,
He
what are you
fielded
doing?
a 102-mile-an-hour screamer while talking to him.
I'm not a results guy. I know the result there is he made the play. What if he makes the air though? What if he makes an air there?
No, he's right. If there's an error there, this
Or
is a
gets
story
hurt.
today.
Yeah. Or gets
It's
Even
hurt.
better.
I'm with you.
Line drive right in the face.
It's
Yeah.
interesting. It's interesting. I get that, but it's just I can't believe baseball's agreed to that. That's how desperate baseball is. They're like, well, you can interview us whenever.
More desperate,
They
please.
They were talking to him on the on-deck circle before he went up, and they're like, all right, we're going to let you hit now. I was like, thank you. He can finally, I'm surprised they weren't like, all right, let's just go in there.
You know what they should have done? If I'm who was it that was talking to him? Like A-Rod and Michael K?
No, it was like
Ravi and Eduardo Perez.
Well, they're too serious. But if it was someone that wanted to have fun and the batter's there, I'd tell the batter what pitch is coming. Like, you put down a 2. Get ready. And I just
remember there's electronic signals now.
Well, I'd be straight up cheating.
You don't have to use those.
Yeah, you don't have to. Sometimes they toss them out. It's a whole thing. By the way, did you see that Mike Trout and Vince Velasquez, they called a rain delay, but both of them wanted to continue the at-bat because there was 2 strikes. I think it was like a 2-2 count, and the umpire called for a rain delay in the middle of it. And like, come on, like, let's finish this. Like, we want to keep playing in the rain. I like that.
They didn't let him, though, right?
No, they didn't. They ended it. By the way, also breaking baseball news. The Mets, Stugotz, DFA'd Robinson Cano.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Well,
hey, what do you know?
Here's the thing. Normally, in this case, you and I would be talking about how our team should be signing Robinson Cano because you got a little bit left in that bat, but your team got rid of him.
Proud of hey,
his
what
nickname.
do you know?
No, it's Robbie Cano, don't you know?
Well, whatever.
Isn't that the John Sterling catchphrase?
Look it up. He's gone.
Hey, what do you know? This Cano plays for your team.
No longer. It's a nice run. Good luck to Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and Jermaine Johnson. Hopefully all, or at least one of you, can overcome the biggest obstacle in sports, being a Jet. Not sure what it is yet, but there's something fishy going on in Wisconsin with the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers. Me and Billy will get to the bottom of it. And you know what they say, Dan? Where there's fish, there are more fishes.
That is what they say.
Mm-hmm. We'll get to the bottom of it.
It's fishy.
It is.
Great state for fishing, though.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Perhaps the best state for fishing. Yeah.
Top 5, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The C in Cole Strange stands for Canton. Desmond Bain, great name for a movie villain. Carolina Panthers, if you have 5 quarterbacks, it means you don't have one. New York Mets, if you have 5 pitchers, it means you might have one.
Hold on a second, Stugotz. Let's leave some room here.
16-7.
He didn't give me a chance to do Bane. He just plowed through.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
He didn't even intentionally do that.
I'm sorry. Want me to do it again?
No.
You sure?
I was writing down top 5 states for fishing.
Do you have it yet?
I only have 2 so far.
I'd prefer the Bane.
Just break off the dabble. See, you can't do it on command, Dan. It's not funny.
You want me to do it again?
No.
Nope, not on command.
All right. Hey, Jet fans, since you fell in love with Joe Douglas over the weekend, you can thank Adam Gase for him. He's the reason he's there. Adam Gase texted me this observation.
It seems like a betrayal.
How'd that get in there?
They're your observations.
I don't recall writing any. By the way, combined no-hitters are not no-hitters in my personal record book. Oh, no. Chris Paul, 14 of 14 in Game 6 of a series you should have won in 4. Not bad. Now do it again against the team that wasn't 10 games under 500 in the regular season.
Do it in a Scott Foster game.
Then do it in the conference finals. Then do it in the finals. And when you're done, do it in the finals again. Next year. CP3, please. Hey, Celtics, attempt a 2-pointer every now and then. Operate from the elbow. Perhaps a baby baseline J. I don't know. A layup? You see how many threes they took yesterday?
Yep.
It's annoying.
Well, I think...
Try a 2.
I think Milwaukee does that, too.
Does what?
I mean, Brook Lopez and Giannis are a bit of a deterrent inside.
No, but they designed their defense to give up threes. They give up more threes than any team in the league. I think on average they gave up 41 3-point attempts per game, and their opponents shoot at a decent percentage. But they're just like, rim, not for you.
Dan, give me a team of 5 Al Horfords, and I'll give you a team that sets screens, scores points in the paint, help defense, with a little side of sharp elbows, what I lack in wins and team success, I'll make up for it with playing basketball the right way. The way it was meant to be played.
I mean, you realize that him shooting threes 10 years ago would have made everyone in the arena scream?
He can hit that shot now, though.
I know. But it's
Plus,
just,
he gives you a little elbow and some defense and points in the paint.
It's amazing to watch his evolution into 35-year-old guy, undersized center. Okay, I'll do it from out here now if I must. If it's the only place I'm going to be allowed to exist.
Give me 5 of them.
And I'll lose in the first round every year.
So what? I'll lead the league in rebounds.
And fundamentals.
Yep. When did Grayson Allen become Larry Bird? My guess is a good portion of Celtic fans would trade Jaylen Brown for Grayson Allen straight up after game 1. Or after any game, for that matter.
Yeah.
The C in Celtics stands for Caucasian. Joel Embiid, badass face mask, collision course. I listened to some of our podcast on the Dan Le Batard Show network over the weekend. And I must say, Billy Gill is an excellent reader of commercials. In fact, I would put Billy in my top 5 readers of radio commercials of all time. How about that? Congrats, Billy.
Thank you. It's ridiculous. But
You're excellent at it. Number 5, Billy Gill. Number 4, Jeff DeForest. Defo. Number 3, man, this was tough. Glenn Ordway. The Big Show, WEEI. Dan, did you ever hear that guy read a live spot? Ho ho! Oh my goodness. Number 2, Howard Stern. And number 1, obvious, slam dunk, the greatest of all time, Joe Rose. The big dog.
Great shout.
Thank you.
Those error on the clock adverts.
Oh, Lenny,
well
Chippy,
read as
Scotty.
anyone.
Oh, my God. Scott Van Peltz. One big thing about the passing of his dog Otis made me a blubbering mess the entire weekend. SVP, Odie, Hollywood Brown, Greg Anderson, you are not. Jesus, terrible friend. Death, taxes, and Jimmy Goldstein. Ron DeSantis, you, sir, are the devil.
Wow.
Hell might be too nice of a home for you.
Wow.
Speaking of hell, Art Briles. Dan, those are the weekend observations.
Stugotz getting political there at the end.
Yeah.
I've got
I can't stand that guy.
One more funniest thing for you guys that I forgot to get to because you mentioned Jerry West, and Jerry West is threatening. He's so mad about Winning Time on HBO.
The logo.
Jerry West is threatening to take it all the way to the Supreme Court if he has to, which shows no understanding of how the Supreme Court or justice works, as if Jerry West could control it, and also is exactly how his character in Winning Time would threaten to get vengeance for this. But I am looking here, Stugotz, because people don't understand that Winning Time, while it's fictionalized, is also something that was meticulously researched. It wasn't just the Jeff Pearlman book, which was exceptional, but it's like this clip, this quote here from Roland Lazenby's book on Jerry West. It was Random House Publishing. I've told you before that Jerry West in his biography says he used to snap clubs and stuff, but this is just from an excerpt from that book. Phil Jackson, the name brings West instantly and completely into the moment. His troubled face tightens. Fuck Phil Jackson, he says. Taken aback by West's sudden fury, the writer attempts to clarify his comment. No, West interrupts. Fuck Phil Jackson. He says each of those words with emphasis to burnish his intent. Sports writers covering the Lakers have long been used to West exploding in anger during interviews. They laugh about the uptight persona that often leaves him launching F-bombs in response to one of their questions, but they hardly ever report his responses. Jerry West went through a deeply dark and angry period in which he talks about mental illness and unhappiness. Your own biography has some of the things that you're now threatening to take all the way to the Supreme Court. Like, what are we doing? What are we
being sensitive, I guess. I mean,
but what are we doing? Jerry West, you're the logo at the end of your career, a fictionalized account of winning time, which is just, and it's not a.
But only Jerry West can say those things about Jerry West, I think is what Jerry West is trying to say. I mean,
unfortunately not true if you're like a public figure who's now part of this legendary story. Like, you are allowed to make a show about someone else that was a real person.
But why not sue when you get a chance to? I mean,
that's a better argument, I think. This
all the
is
way
America.
to, Supreme
you
Court.
You can sue,
right?
you might as well sue.
Why would HBO like take that sitting down though? Like, if you're HBO, like, we're making a show. We make shows about lots of things. Most of them aren't real. What are we doing?
They should just be, Jerry West should just be lucky they haven't shown a Jerry West dick pic yet, because it is on HBO, and we know that that's coming.
Jessica, top 5 fishing states.
Number 5, Michigan. Most freshwater in all of the United States.
Really?
Yes. Great fishing in Michigan. Tons of lakes. Great lakes. It's
Number 4.
Great. Florida. Subtropical. Catch marlin.
Number 3.
Maine. Ocean, lakes, ponds. Tons of coastline in Maine. Tons of lighthouses, too.
Number 2.
Wisconsin.
Excellent.
There's lakes. There's 2 Great Lakes. Wisconsin is a great place to fish.
That's as Midwest as you sound.
Wisconsin, the way you say Wisconsin.
Real Illinois people say Wisconsin, as if there's like an Eastconsin.
I thought you were doing a thing.
Wisconsin?
You're leaning into it, right? You're like,
no, she's not doing that on purpose, I don't think.
Oh my God, how else would you say it?
Number 1.
Alaska, obviously.
Duh. I wrote them all down.